Hello, greetings. So it's time for another Gorian topic. And this is a topic that pops up every now and again on Gorian forums and Facebook groups and in real life as well. And it's often a criticism leveled against Gorians from others, especially BDSMers, and that is that the Gorian community is homophobic and transphobic. And so I wanted to address that. Is the Gorian lifestyle transphobic and homophobic? And the short answer of it is yes, this is a problem within our lifestyle. But it is in no way, shape, or form really a part of the philosophy. It's just that it has a tendency to develop like that. Now, this isn't true in all Gorian communities. For example, I am part of a wonderful Gorian Facebook community. And there are several trans people members there. I've never seen them discriminated against whatsoever. And it's a community that basically accepts whatever, as long as you behave honorably, they accept your interpretation of the Gorian books and the Gorian lifestyle and doesn't try to force things down your throat and are extremely tolerant and nice people. But I have also seen especially trans women within the Gorian community be badly discriminated against, and it has a little bit of the same idea that there's a lot of discrimination within the Gorian community towards submissive men and dominant women, because you have to understand that when you take a set of books and you turn this into a lifestyle, there's a lot of people that is going to read the books as the devil reads the Bible. They are not going to think because they don't want to think. They just want to copy as much as humanly possible from the books. If it's not in the books, it shouldn't be like that. And they don't pause to consider things like the various real-world societies and philosophies that this is taken from. I mean, John Norman has said repeatedly that there's a lot of sources that has inspired the Gorian philosophy. Old Norse, Greek, Roman, especially Roman, Bushido, Ayn Rand's book with relativism, Nietzsche, just to mention a few. And so you can't really, if you want a functioning philosophy, I don't believe it is wise to view the Gorian philosophy in a vacuum and just look at the Gore books, because then you will not end up with what is intended. Now, another problem is that within a set of fiction books, you will always have world reduction. First of all, you have the idea of basically the author's own limitations in that, and the time they were written. They are still coming out, but at least when the series began. And so, yeah, the problem is this, that there are no trans people on Gore. Because just like there are no dominant women, there are no actually submissive men. Or just like in the Gore books, the women, they're tiny. They are described as being these tiny little women. And then you have these huge Conan the Barbarian males with and He-Man muscles. Yeah, no. It doesn't work like that. Basically, if you have this huge He-Man just without the pink diapers that He-Man wears, manly man And then you have these tiny little 4.5 feet woman, and they have sex and have babies. Chances are she is gonna die delivering that baby, but if she doesn't, that baby is gonna be somewhere in between the parents, and within a few generations, it will have evened itself out. That's how human biology works. So there's a lot of things within the books that are there because of the themes the author wants to bring home. It is called world reduction. It is a little bit like in a fantasy series named Wheel of Time. There, has never been. There's not one single character within the books that are born with some sort of mental deficiency. There are no Down syndrome children. There's none, and basically, the author was asked once, what would happen if you have some really, really powerful mages in that setting? And the author was asked, what would happen if you had somebody with Down syndrome being a mage? And he said that doesn't happen in this setting. Because here's the thing, it's not about that. So people with Down syndrome, doesn't exist in that setting. The same way people asked, what would happen if you have somebody who are hermaphroditic? It happens because in that setting you have one type of magic for women and one type of magic for men. And the author said, it doesn't happen. And you have the same within the Gore books. Basically, there's a lot of things that just doesn't happen within the books. Now, what some that I like to call gore bangers do is then bury their head in their sand and just scream, well, if it isn't in the book, it doesn't exist. I mean, some of these people go far enough that they say, no, we are going to brand our slaves exactly as they do in the books. No matter if professional body modification, professional body modifiers? Body modification professionals. Talking difficult. Anyway, if they say, no, you cannot do that. Are you insane? This is how you brand a cow. Human skin and a cow's hides are not the same thing. You cannot do it the same way. All you will end up with is, if you're lucky, an ugly blob of a scar, and if you're unlucky, hospital. We're talking about third-degree burns here. But no, we're gonna do it this way because that's how it's done in the books. I mean, I have even been told once that, no, you are not a Gorian because there are no witches on Gore. Actually, you have magicians. There's a little bit of the book if they do believe they have some powers themselves, but it's mostly stage magic. But I'm getting off topic. The point is this. There's a lot of people that said, no, there are no people that are trans in the Gore book, so it doesn't exist. If you are Gorian, then no. Nope. But that is closing your eye to the real world. When you adapt something into a lifestyle, you have to adapt it to real life, not the other way around. And in real life, you have transsexuals. And there's nothing wrong with that. Now, of course, there's a lot of people that close their eyes completely and say that, no, there doesn't exist anything that's sexual in the books. They have very strict gender roles, so these people that are pretending to be another gender, yeah, but they're not pretending. Here's the thing, people that try to deny that there exists something that's called transhuman. They have done brain scans of transhuman. What am I talking about? Transsexual. There isn't anything called transsexual. They've done brain scans of transsexuals, and they tend to have brains that are similar to how the brains of the gender they identify as. Basically, if you take 100 women and 100 men and put them in a scanner, you will see that there are some similarities between the female brains and the male brains. Now this, of course, is against statistics, which I have been discussing in my Gorian videos quite a few times, because in the real world, not everybody is the same. We are talking about statistics. That is why in the real world you have dominant females and submissive males. Even if the norm, basically the statistical norm, is submissive females and dominant males. But if you are looking at the real world, you also have people that are uncommon for their gender. And there's nothing wrong with that. But anyway, if you then take 10 transsexual people and scan them, you will see that most trans females have brains that are more similar to female brains, and most trans men have brains that are more similar to male brains. It is basically, gender is more than just what you have between your legs. Now, but this is a real problem. I know several groups that say, no, they will not accept slaves that are not born female. If you are not born female, you cannot join the group as a slave. It doesn't matter if... And it's basically... And I think it's so wrong, because here's the thing. The one thing that is the main focus of Gorianism, absolutely main focus, if you strip down everything else from Gorianism and says you have to toss away everything within this philosophy, you can keep one thing. The one most central thing in this philosophy is to live in accordance with your own nature. Do not lie for yourself, but live in accordance with your own nature. And that nature, for example, somebody who is a trans woman, is that they are female. The most Gorian thing a trans female can do is to be a woman, because they are women. That's what their soul are. That's what their mind are. So that is how they should live. And the same when you come to somebody who is gay. Now, gays are usually given a little bit more leeway, because you have a relationship in Medicians between a slave named Milo and his master, that was named, I embarrassingly have forgotten right at the moment, and Medicians is my favorite book of the Gore ones. But anyway, and it's very, very heavily implied that they are lovers. But you will have those that deny that too. And I think it's such a shame, because you're supposed to live by your own inner nature. And here's the thing. We do not live on Gore. Gore is fantasy. And there's a lot of things, like I said, that exist in our world that does not exist on Gore, either because the author himself haven't thought about it, or because it is something that would be difficult to write about in a book, or because it just wouldn't fit that narrative. And as such, there's nothing wrong within the Gorian philosophy with being gay or being transsexual. And the more discriminatory this lifestyle is, the more people will just look down on it. Now, this basically, there is no hiding that there's a lot that basically, if you look at the typical Gorian, he or she are towards the right politically and are conservative. Because most people who are more towards the left will have a problem with the very specific gender roles within the Gorian philosophy. And there are a lot, unfortunately, there are a lot within the conservative communities that have a problem with anybody who doesn't fit into their religious doctrine. And that tends to be that that you shall not have gays, you shall not have transsexuals, and they have a very narrow mind. Now, there's positive things about the right side politically. One of the very positive sides is an great reverence for personal choice and personal freedom, and in addition to that, personal responsibility. And the left have a tendency to move away from that, it instead having that, no, you are not responsible for your life. The state is responsible for your life. It's like, I have this friend who is very towards the left, and we were discussing whatever stores should be closed on Sundays, which they are here in Norway. And said, no, would be nice to have they shouldn't be opened on Sundays, because people needed a day where they didn't do shopping, because there's a lot of people that were struggling with their shopping habits. And I said, but wouldn't that be up to the individual? No, if people can't control that themselves, the state have to protect people from themselves, and I couldn't disagree more. Or like this discussion I had where it was, oh no, we need to limit the amount of candy people can buy because they make themselves ill, so we have to stop that. But I mean, people have to take responsibility for that themselves. And in that part, I agree much more with the right, that basically has, do what the fuck you want, but take responsibility for it. On the other hand, I disagree with a lot on the right who are very bigoted towards people that are transsexual, people that are gay, peoples of different races and colors and religions. Because there again you get to the negative part of conservatism. And since there's a lot of conservatives within the Gorian lifestyle, you will have some of that negativity there. And I believe as responsible Gorians, we need to contradict that. Because here's the thing. I have no problem with a Gorian man, for example, saying that I'm not comfortable owning a Kachira that has had a male body or has a male body. That's completely fine. Not a problem. Just like I wouldn't have a problem with one saying, I wouldn't want to have a Kachira that's fat. Or I wouldn't want a Kachira that has a different religion than me. Or anything of that sort. But I have a problem when I try to basically block them out of our society, because that's just as much as right to be there as anybody else. Because the point is, the Gorian philosophy is not, thou shalt live according to the Gore books. It is, you shall live according to your own nature. And there's a lot of people within the Gore books that do not do that. And there's a lot of people within the Gore books that do things that are definitely not honorable, because they are fallible characters. And it's a story. Basically, as living Gorians, what we need to do is to look at the Gore books and take inspiration from them for what, and from that create a functional lifestyle within our world. And within our world, you have people who are transsexual, you have people who are gay, you have dominant women, you have submissive men. And I believe that it's important to accept this. Now, the problem with the left and with a lot of the world in the West today is that they have a tendency to basically try to force away the norm. They have a tendency to say, no, never mind what the reality is, everybody is the same, when people aren't. Or no, we need to have 50-50 men and women within leadership. And the truth is, far fewer women want to become leaders, and far fewer women are willing to do what it takes to become leaders. And that is wrong. That just create a mess of society. But I also think that it is wrong to say, no, we need to enforce gender roles. So that even if you have this woman that is amazingly good at her job as a leader within business life, she can't work as that because she has boobs. Because I believe that one very important part of the Gorian ideal for a world is to have a meritocracy. And then it should be a meritocracy. Now, men have a tendency to have merits in different areas than women, where if you have a woman that has very male merits, she can definitely compete with men. What I have a problem with is when you try to enforce this idea of equality that isn't there. There are women that are just as good as men in any areas, just as you have men that are just as good as women in the areas where women tend to dominate. But if you look at the statistical norm, you have to basically look at that to see what life for the majority should be, and not sort of dictate some artificial life. And I believe that is an important part of Gorianism. However, many Gorians turn around and do exactly the same thing, only that it is the norm they want to enforce. That, granted, will then hurt less people because the majority will then live within their natures. But it is still wrong because it then takes away the ability to actually live within your true nature for a lot of people who are a little bit different from the norm, and doesn't acknowledge that there are a lot of people who, when they are trans women or trans men or gay or dominant when female or submissive when male, that's when they are living out their true natures. And as Gorians, we should respect that and not shun it. So yeah, I hope you have enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, just post them below. Have a great day, and blessed be.